I knew the snow would take one of us before sunrise. I just didn't know it would choose me first. The boy staggered out of the tree line, shirt soaked red, whispering the same plea over and over. Sir, if they come, hide my sister. Behind him, smoke crawled across the valley, the kind men used to flush prey from burrows, and the thing he carried tight against his ribs wasn't something a child should have died for. It was the kind of proof whole towns burned to bury. Silas Wren stepped onto his porch, boots sinking into the frost, knowing this wasn't a rescue. It was a noose being placed in his hands. Because before the night ended, the fields would be on fire, the house would fall, and someone he trusted would knock on his door with the wrong story and the wrong badge. Before we ride in, drop your city in the comments. Stay with this tale till the last breath, and don't forget to subscribe for more Western love. The boy's blood hit the porch boards before his knuckles did. He stumbled into the last light of evening with his left hand clamped to his shoulder, fingers slick and useless. Not the kind of hurt a fence wire gave you. This cut had purpose. It ran from collarbone to blade, deep enough that his torn shirt stuck to it like a second skin. Dust and snowmelt tracked his boots, leaving a crooked trail up the steps of the richest spread in the valley. He looked too young to be out here alone. 13, maybe. Thin. Eyes too big for his face and wild the way a horse's eyes get when it smells smoke before you do. He kept looking back over his shoulder, past the cottonwoods, toward the dark line where the pines started, as if the trees themselves might spit out what he was running from. The door stayed closed. He hit it with his fist anyway. Once. Twice. The third time his knees buckled and he caught the rail with his good hand, breath coming in broken scraps that steamed in the cold air. Inside, a chair creaked. Silas Wren set his cup down without taking another sip. Coffee had gone lukewarm an hour ago. He'd been sitting with his boots on the rail, watching the last of the sun slide off the snow on the far ridge, thinking of nothing in particular and trying not to think of Christmas. The knock came again. Weak. Desperate. Silas didn't like surprises. You didn't get to be the only man in 3 counties who could buy a town and still be left alone by opening your door every time something rattled it. He reached for the revolver on the table out of habit, spun the cylinder once, then left it there. The latch clicked. He opened the door just wide enough for his shadow to spill out. The boy stared up at him, pupils blown wide, lips pale and trembling, breath smoking in the blue cold. For a moment he didn't seem to see Silas at all, just the open dark behind him. Then his gaze focused. Sir. The word scraped out of him like it cost something. If they come, hide my sister. His knees gave up after that. Silas caught him by the front of the shirt before he went all the way down. Warmth soaked across his fingers. He dragged the boy inside, kicked the door shut with his heel, and hauled him toward the table. I didn't say you could bleed on my porch, he muttered. Out loud it sounded like a joke. It wasn't. Later, I would remember the way his hand shook when he reached for the basin. He shoved a chair out of the way with his boot, grabbed the tin bucket from beside the stove, pumped the handle of the well once, twice, 3 times, until water sloshed cold and clear. Then he dumped the whole thing over the boy's shoulder. The boy screamed, a raw, high sound that died halfway, then sucked air back in with a ragged sob. Blood and water splashed across the floor, ran toward the cracks like it was eager to be gone. Stay with me, Silas said, voice flat. How many? The boy blinked hard, swallowed. 4, maybe 5. Silas's jaw worked. That was too many for accidents and not enough for mercy. From which side? He asked. The boy tried to lift his good arm, fingers jerking toward the door, toward the trees. The motion pulled at the wound and his head lolled. Silas slapped his cheek. Not hard, just enough. Eyes open, kid. You brought trouble to my door. You don't get to fall apart before I know what kind. Outside, far off, a horse called to another. The sound came thin on the winter air. Snow lay in dirty strips along the fence line. The sky had gone that hard purple it gets right before the stars win. It's them, the boy whispered. They said we took something. We didn't. I swear to God. His voice broke on the last word. Silas heard that more than the rest. He wrapped a clean rag, clean enough, tight around the boy's shoulder, knotting it until the boy hissed through his teeth. Swearing's for folks who got time, Silas said. You got a name? Noah, the boy breathed. All right, Noah. Silas's hands didn't slow. Where's your sister? Noah's eyes slid toward the window, toward the cottonwoods beyond the yard. By the creek, he said. In the trees. I told her to hide and not come out till I came back. Sir, don't let them see her. His fingers groped blindly, caught the edge of Silas's coat like a drowning man catching driftwood. Please. Silas pried the hand loose and set it on the boy's own chest. Sit there, he said. Lean on the post. You pass out. You do it quiet. He reached for the old Colt on the table then, thumb running over the worn grip, tapping the butt twice the way he always did, before making a choice he might not walk away from. Habit or prayer. Hard to tell some days. He slid the gun into the holster at his hip, grabbed the lantern from its nail by the door and snuffed the flame with his fingers, leaving just a faint ember. Enough to coax back if he needed it. Too little to call attention now. When he opened the door again, the cold slapped his face. The yard lay empty. The world had gone still in that way it sometimes did out here, when it felt like even God was holding his breath. Silas stepped off the porch, boots crunching in the crusted snow. He didn't hurry. Running broke silhouettes. Silhouettes got you shot. He moved along the side of the house, keeping his shoulder close to the boards, then slipped through the gap in the fence toward the cottonwoods. The creek down there ran slow and dark, a black ribbon cutting through white banks, whispering over stone like it was telling secrets. Branches scratched at his coat. He stopped twice, listening. Nothing but the creek. And way off, that same horse. Closer now. He found her under the third cottonwood from the bend. She was curled against the trunk, knees drawn up, arms cinched tight around them. Dark hair hung in her face, tangled with ice and smoke and something that might have been ash. Her dress was torn at the hem. Bare feet pressed into the snow like she'd forgotten they were there. When she saw him, she flinched hard enough her shoulder hit bark. Her hands came up like she expected a blow. Silas stayed where he was, 5 good strides away. He let her see the lines first. Man, hat, coat, gun, no rush, no reaching. Evening, he said quietly. Your brother made it to my porch. Her eyes widened, fear, hope, both. He's not dead, Silas added. Not yet. I've seen worse walk away. The wind picked up, carrying the faint, bitter scent of smoke through the trees. Not from his chimney. Are they coming? She asked. Silas didn't answer that. Not because he didn't know. I'm taking you out of these trees, he said. Now, you walk in front where I can see you, or you can stay here and let them find you first. Your choice. For a heartbeat, she didn't move. Then she pushed herself up, legs shaking. The marks on her wrists showed dark even in the dusk. Rope burns, old enough to bruise, fresh enough to sting. She swayed and caught the trunk with one hand. The other slipped into her dress, fingers closing around something flat and hard near her ribs. Do you... Her voice cracked once, then steadied. Do you have a cellar? Or a tunnel? Silas stopped breathing for half a second. No child should have known to ask that. Walk, he said. She did. He fell in behind her, putting his body between her and the open country, between her and the line of pines where the night waited. The creek kept whispering. Somewhere out there, hooves struck frozen ground in an easy, unhurried rhythm. Christmas lights didn't reach this far, but the stars were coming out. Lord, he thought, if you're listening tonight, you picked a hell of a time to send me company. Silas brought the girl across the yard, the same way he'd bring a skittish horse. Slow, steady, letting the shadows move first so she wouldn't. Her bare feet left small bruises in the crusted snow, each one filling with cold before the next step formed. On the porch, Noah tried to stand when he saw her, but pain folded him in half. His voice cracked like frozen wood. Mara. She knelt beside him, hands shaking as she touched his face, his hair, his breath. She didn't cry. She just counted each breath like it was a coin she wasn't sure she still owned. Inside, Silas said. Both of you. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. The wind carried the smell of smoke again, a little stronger this time. Metallic, crawling low across the ground, the way fire sometimes did before it showed its teeth. Inside the house, he shut the door, dropped the bar into place, and trimmed the lantern wick until the flame was barely a whisper. The room deepened into shadows. Sit, he told Noah. The boy sagged against the post by the table exactly where Silas had left him, blood seeping through the rag. Mara hovered, unsure if she should stand or kneel or run. Her eyes kept flicking to the windows, to the dark beyond them. Silas struck a match with his thumb, lit a single lamp on the table, cupped the glass so the light didn't spill toward the yard. The glow lit her face. Young, too young to know the kind of fear she carried. What did you two walk away with? He asked. Noah stiffened. Mara reacted first. Nothing, she said too fast. Silas's eyes slid to her wrists, to the rope burns dark against her skin. They don't burn down houses for nothing, he said. Mara hesitated, then reached into her dress. From a pocket sewn into the lining, she pulled a thin, flat piece of metal. It caught the lamplight in a weak copper flash. She laid it on the table between them. Silas didn't touch it. Not yet. Paper too, she whispered. Noah fumbled in his ruined sleeve and produced a tiny folded scrap, stained almost black in one corner. He held it out with shaking fingers. Silas took the paper, unfolded it once, twice. The writing was smudged but not gone. A name, a date, a parcel number, and a signature someone had wanted erased. He exhaled through his nose. So that's what this is. Mara's voice was barely a breath. They killed the man who owned it. Said he sold the land to Baron Rusk. But he didn't sign this one. We found it under his bed when the fire started. Noah swallowed hard. I grabbed it before the roof fell. I thought it mattered. Silas set the paper down. Outside, that horse called again. Closer now. enough to make the boards in the wall carry the vibration. Lord, I remember that sound, he thought. The night before my first wrong kill. He straightened. How many saw you leave the fire? Silas asked. Just one, Mara said. Then more. 5 riders. Noah whispered. Silas nodded once. The numbers never got kinder when you repeated them. He circled the table, took down the rifle from its mount, checked the chamber without ceremony. 6 rounds inside. More on the shelf. But 6 was what he had if things turned bad before he could reach the rest. He blew out the lamp. The room fell to a low amber hush. Down, he said. Mara pulled Noah to the floor behind the table without waiting for explanation. The wood creaked once under their weight, then settled. Silas stepped to the window, used a fingertip to push the curtain aside a 1/4 inch. Snow glowed faint under the rising moon. The cottonwood stood still as carved stone, but shadows moved where shadows shouldn't. He didn't see riders yet, but he saw the gap the riders would come through. He lowered the curtain. They'll try talking first, he said. Then they'll try buying. Then they'll try burning. Mara's breath hitched. Burning? Here? He didn't answer her. He knelt by Noah instead, tightening the knot on the boy's bandage, checking the color of his lips. You stay behind this post. If the house shakes, it means nothing. If it groans, crawl. Sir, Noah whispered. His voice was breaking. If they come. I heard you the first time, Silas said. You don't tell me twice. Mara shifted closer. Please, don't let them take him. Take me if you have to, but... No one's taken anyone, Silas said. Not while I'm standing. A beat. 2. Then the soft crunch of snow under hooves cut through the quiet like a blade. Noah's fingers dug into Mara's sleeve. Silas rose, silhouette tall in the half-light, a black shape carved out of the lamplight's edge. Stay low, he said. Stay quiet. He reached for the door, rested his hand on the latch. On the other side, a voice, smooth, polite, practiced, called out. Evening, friend. Hell of a night to have company. Silas didn't open the door. He didn't need to. He knew that voice, and the voice knew him. For now, he thought. Lord, keep them still for now. The knock that followed wasn't loud, but it was the kind that meant choices were running out. Silas unlatched the door but didn't open it wider than a boot heel. Cold air slipped in first, carrying the faintest whiff of pine pitch and horse sweat. Outside, 5 riders lined the yard like they were posing for a painting no one wanted to hang. Their horses snorted steam into the dark, tails switching slow. The one in the center sat easy in the saddle, thumbs hooked in his belt, hat pulled low. Evening, the man said again, smoother this time. We're looking for a boy and a girl. Might have come limping this way. Silas didn't answer. He stepped out, closing the door behind him until it clicked. His boots thudded once on the porch boards. The riders watched him the way wolves watch a wounded bull. Curious, patient, already tasting the outcome. You live here alone? The man asked. I do. The man's smile showed teeth but no warmth. Shame. Big place like this. Gets quiet, I expect. Silas didn't blink. Noah, behind the wall, held his breath until his ribs ached. Mara's hand covered his mouth, her fingers trembling so hard she could feel her pulse in her palm. The lead rider leaned forward in his saddle, elbows resting on the horn. Tell you what, he drawled. We're not looking for trouble. Kids get foolish, wander off with things that ain't theirs. You hand 'em over, and we forget the whole mess. We even leave you a little thank you." He nodded at the wiry man beside him. The wiry one tossed a small leather bag onto the porch. It hit with a dull clink. Coins. A lot of them. Silas didn't look down. He just nudged the bag with his boot, sliding it back toward the edge. "I'm not buying or selling tonight." The lead rider's smile thinned. "Now why'd you say buy first?" A breeze lifted the man's coat just enough for Silas to see the butt of the pistol riding low on his hip. Worn. Used. Not decorative. "You seen him or not?" the man asked. "No." One word. Firm. Final. The wiry rider spat into the snow. "He's lying, Garrett. Look at his damn porch." Silas didn't shift his stance. Didn't look down at the faint smear of Noah's blood by the rail. Didn't need to. He felt it there like a weight. Garrett raised a hand to silence his man. "Easy now," he murmured. "We're all neighbors here. No call to get ugly." Then he tipped his head, studying Silas the way a card shark studies a man's pulse. "But I'm going to ask again," Garrett said softly. "And this time I'd appreciate an answer you don't regret." Silas let the silence sit between them, heavy as an anvil, cold as the snow under their boots. "No children came through here," he said at last. Garrett's smile vanished. For a moment, the only sound was a horse stamping nervously in the back of the line. "You sure about that?" Garrett asked. "I am." Garrett exhaled once, long and disappointed, like a schoolmaster denied the chance to praise a promising student. "All right," he murmured. "Have it your way." He straightened in the saddle. Then micro hook. Two riders turned their heads at the same time, nostrils flaring. The wind had shifted, carrying smoke. Garrett noticed it too, the faint curl rising beyond the ridge. Not from Silas's chimney, farther, wider, a burn line. "Hell of a night," he said, voice turning cold. "Wind's picking up. Fire'll run fast on a night like this." Silas's jaw tightened. Mara, inside, felt her stomach drop, though she didn't know why. Garrett tugged his reins. "We'll be back through. Just making sure good folks stay safe." He clicked his tongue once. The 5 riders turned, not sharply, not in frustration, but in a slow, steady arc, like they had all the time in the world to do their killing. Their silhouettes thinned as they moved toward the cottonwoods, hooves muffled in the snow. They didn't rush. Men who planned on returning never did. Silas stood on the porch until the last shadow slid behind the trees. The wind brought the smell of smoke clearer now, acrid, creeping, hungry. He touched the butt of his gun once, twice, a silent habit, or a prayer. Then he whispered one thing under his breath. "Lord, if this is the night, make me steady." He stepped back inside, and the house for the first time felt smaller. Silas dropped the bar back across the door. The house settled around him with the kind of silence that meant it was listening too. Mara knelt beside Noah, tightening the knot of the rag on his shoulder. Her hands were quick but gentle, the way someone works when they've had to learn medicine on the run. Noah bit down on his sleeve to keep from crying out. "They're leaving, aren't they?" Mara asked. "No," Silas said. "They're circling." She swallowed. Even Noah froze at that. Silas crossed the room, pulled open the drawer under the stove, and took out a small tin of cartridges. He poured a few into his palm, listening to the soft clink. 6, then 12 more. He filled the loops on his belt, slid one round into the Colt with a click that felt heavier than it should have. Outside, the wind shifted again. Smoke crept under the eaves, faint but certain. Mara stiffened at the smell, her breath faltering. "Sit him lower," Silas said. "Floor stays cooler." Mara eased Noah down. The boy's face went gray around the edges, but he stayed conscious, barely. Silas pulled back the rug in the bedroom doorway. Mara's eyes darted to it immediately. "No," she whispered. "You have one." Silas lifted the corner. The trapdoor's iron hinge caught the light. Noah tried to push himself up on his good arm. "We can hide there." "You hide," Silas said. "I stay topside." Mara shook her head. "They'll burn the house." "Maybe," Silas said. I knew the maybe wasn't for them. It was for me. He dug out a small oil lamp, set it near the trap door, trimmed the wick low. Enough light to see the start of a tunnel that ran under the earth like a buried choice he'd hoped never to use again. Mara's fingers brushed her dress pocket. Silas didn't miss the movement. "What else you carrying?" he asked. She hesitated, then pulled out the folded scrap of paper, the one Noah had nearly bled for. She held it tight, not offering it. "It can't burn," she said. "If it burns, all of this was for nothing." Silas didn't reach for it. "It won't burn." Mara blinked. "How can you be sure?" Silas opened the coat closet just enough for her to see inside. Rows of old bank ledgers, sealed tins, documents wrapped in oilcloth. Things a man didn't want the world to remember but didn't dare destroy. Her eyes widened, not in greed, but in understanding. "You worked for him," she whispered. "Didn't you? That man, Baron Rusk." Silas's jaw tightened. "Long time ago. You signed something," she pressed. "Something that hurt people." Silas didn't deny it. Instead he said, "Get water. 2 buckets. Fill 'em." Mara stared at him another second, searching for something she didn't find, then moved fast toward the pump. She filled the buckets until her arms shook, set them near the kitchen doorway as Silas had shown her. Noah watched, shivering. "Sir, what do we do if they surround everything?" Silas crouched beside him. "You breathe. You stay by that wall. When I say run, you run. You run with her. You don't stop." Noah swallowed. "And you?" Silas didn't answer. He stood, walked to the front window, pushed the curtain open with the edge of his knuckle. Far off, a faint glow flickered behind the pines. Weak, but growing. Like the first spark in a field of dry grass. "They're setting spots," Silas murmured. "Testing what the wind will take." Mara returned, breath sharp from the cold. "Will it reach us?" "Depends how hungry they are," Silas said. The house creaked with the shift of temperature, the boards tightening against the cold. Noah winced at the sound, mistaking it for footsteps. Silas turned the lantern wick down another fraction. The room dimmed. "From here on," he said quietly, "nobody stands taller than a table, you hear me?" Mara nodded. Noah whispered, "Yes, sir." Silas paced once, slow, studying the windows, the corners, the shadows. A man measuring the kill box he might have to die inside. I felt the old weight settle in my chest, the one I thought I'd buried with the uniform in the past. He cocked the hammer of the rifle just once, just to feel the weight of it. Outside, the wind picked up again, carrying more smoke, carrying hoofbeats too, soft, uncertain, hunting in the dark. Silas stepped back from the window. "They're not done talking," he said. "Next comes the fire." And somewhere deep in the trees, a horse called out like an answer. The first glow didn't look like fire, not at a distance. Silas saw it from the bedroom window, a soft orange smear dragging itself across the snow line just beyond the cottonwoods. Too low for lanterns, too wide for camp. Mara stood behind him, arms wrapped around herself. "Is that—" "Yes," Silas said. "Backfire line. They're walking it toward us." As if on cue, the wind shifted again, carrying a breath of heat that didn't belong to winter. The boards in the wall groaned, expanding under the change. Noah tried to push himself up. "We have to run." "You run when I say run," Silas said. "Not a breath sooner." He crossed to the front window, moved the curtain with 2 fingers. More light now. Small tongues of flame licking dry weeds and brittle grass. 3 riders stood in silhouette, spaced like shepherds, guiding the line forward. "They're making a funnel," Silas murmured. "Smoke us out or drive us out." Mara swallowed hard. "Why not just storm the house?" "They will," Silas said. "Once they can't breathe in it either." The smoke reached the porch first, thin, bitter. It curled under the door seam in a pale ribbon. Silas took 1 bucket and sloshed water along the threshold. Mara copied him with the second, her hands shaking so hard she nearly spilled half of it. A crack sounded outside, sharp, brittle. Noah flinched. "What was that?" "Fence rail caught flame," Silas said. "Won't be the last." He grabbed the rifle, checked the chamber, and knelt beneath the front window, using the sill as a brace. He didn't aim at the riders. Not yet. A horse snorted outside, uneasy. "Sir," Noah whispered, voice trembling. If they get in." "I'll handle what gets in," Silas said. "You handle breathing." Smoke crawled higher, filling the edges of the room with a low haze. Mara pulled her sleeve over her nose. Noah coughed once, quick and scared. Silas waited for the wind to shift. When it did, he fired. Not at a man, not at a horse. He drove the bullet into the dirt 2 feet from the nearest rider's boots, close enough to make the man jerk back, grabbing for his reins. The line of fire faltered, flames stumbling sideways. A heartbeat of confusion bought them a breath, but only a breath, because the riders didn't fall back. They spread. 3 shapes breaking into 4, then 5, a loose ring tightening around the house. Slow, patient, confident. Lord, I remember that feeling, Silas thought, the moment the trap clicks shut. He moved to the bedroom doorway. Mara and Noah sat against the wall, low as he'd told them. Mara's eyes glistened in the dim, but she didn't speak. "Trap door," Silas said. "Now." Mara pulled Noah to it, swung the little hatch open. The dark below breathed cold earth up at them. Noah stared, wide-eyed, not afraid of the dark, but of leaving Silas above it. Mara started down first, using her elbows to brace. "Noah, come." But Noah didn't move. Silas nudged him with 2 fingers. "Go." Noah shook his head. "Not unless you promise." "Kid," Silas said, "if you die on this floor, I gotta dig 2 graves instead of 1. Don't make me do that." Noah swallowed and lowered himself into the hole. Mara reached up, gripping Silas's coat sleeve. Her fingers were ice cold. "You're coming down when we're clear?" Silas didn't answer right away. Wind hammered the wall, shoving smoke deeper into the room. The house creaked like a tired animal ready to drop. "When you hear me hit the floor above you," he said, "that means run." "Run where?" Mara whispered. "Anywhere that isn't here." She hesitated, then dropped into the darkness after Noah, pulling the trap door halfway closed. A sliver of her pale face lingered in the crack. "Don't let them take the boy," she whispered. Silas pressed the door shut. For 1 second, the house was so quiet he could hear his own pulse. Then the first bullet hit the siding, a sharp, splintering crack, followed by another and another. Windows along the west wall exploded inward, shards of glass spraying across the floor like thrown ice. Silas hit the boards hard, rolled behind the heavy oak table. He chambered another round, sighted through the broken frame, and fired high to force heads down without taking a life he didn't need to take. Smoke pushed through the broken window like a living thing now, hot, filthy, choking. He wiped his eyes with the back of his hand, blinked until shapes steadied. 4 men advancing, not 5. One was missing. A cold, heavy thought slid down his spine. One missing meant one inside the circle, one looking for the trap door. He fired again, buying seconds, not safety. Then he backed toward the bedroom, toward the dark gap Mara and Noah had vanished into, toward the hole that was now their only way out. The fire roared outside, alive and hungry, and inside the house shrank to a single truth. They were out of time. The next volley came fast. Bullets punched through the siding like angry fists, chewing splinters out of the wall and spraying them across the room. One tore through the curtain, another ripped clean through the lantern on the shelf, sending oil hissing across the floorboards. Silas dropped to a knee, rifle tight to his shoulder, breath steady even as smoke clawed its way down his throat. He fired once, high again. A silhouette ducked behind a horse. Another man cursed. The table took a round meant for his head. Oak jumped, shuddered, but held. For now. He slid backward on his elbows toward the bedroom, eyes sweeping the floor, counting shadows, listening for the thing he feared most. Bootsteps inside the house. He reached the trap door. Smoke pushed along the ceiling in a thick gray sheet, dipping lower with each gust from the broken windows. "Stay down," he called through the floorboards, low, harsh, clipped. "Don't move till I say." No answer. Good. Silence meant they were alive. He braced himself near the window frame, risked a quick glance outside. 4 men, positions spread, guns up. But there was a gap, too big, too intentional, from the last man to the edge of the yard. The missing one. Silas gritted his teeth. They weren't just shooting. They were hurting him, holding attention at the windows so the 5th could slip into the blind side of the house. Lord, steady my hands, he thought. Just this once. A boot hit the porch. Not running, creeping. Silas pivoted, pressing his back to the wall beside the bedroom door. He took one breath, then another. The doorknob on the back room twitched. Not the front, the back. The missing man had found a weak point. Silas eased the hammer of his Colt back with his thumb. No sound. Just that soft internal click a man feels more than hears. The back door creaked open. A shadow slid in, low, cautious, a knife glinting in one hand, gun in the other. Not a fool. A patient man. A man sent for something delicate. Silas didn't fire. Not yet. Firing would tell the others he'd found their snake, would bring them running in. Instead, he stepped sideways, silent, closing the distance in one slow breath. The intruder saw him too late. Silas slammed the butt of the Colt into the man's wrist. The knife skittered across the floor, metal ringing once before vanishing under the table. The man hissed, gun swinging up. Silas kicked the man's knee out from under him. They hit the floor together. The gun went off, too loud in the small room, showering plaster from the wall. Silas drove his forearm into the man's throat. The intruder clawed at him, choking, boots kicking wildly. Smoke rolled around them like a second enemy, burning eyes, stealing air. The man thrashed, reaching blindly for his fallen knife. Silas didn't let him get it. He slammed the man's head against the floorboards once, twice. The body went still, arms dropping limp. Silas stood, chest heaving, one down. But the others had heard that shot, and they were adjusting. He heard reins jerked, boots thudded in snow. Riders repositioned fast, confident they now had him pinned inside. Bullets tore through the east windows in a wild sweep. Glass hammered the floor like hail. A shard sliced Silas's cheek. Warm blood trickled down his jawline. He wiped it with the back of his hand. "Not tonight," he muttered. He crawled back to the window, lifted the rifle, and sent a round slicing past a rider's leg, close enough to throw the horse sideways. The man tumbled into the snow, swearing. Silas didn't fire again. He'd bought 6 seconds, maybe 8, enough to make a choice. He pushed the bedroom door shut, not to hide, but to funnel smoke toward it, away from the trap door. He kicked a fallen quilt across the floor, covering the spot where the boards lifted. The fire outside roared louder, as if it sensed the house's heartbeat. Silas knelt by the trap door, tapped twice. "Move," he said through the cracks. "Now!" He lifted the hatch enough for a breath of cold earth to flood upward. Noah's voice drifted up, thin and afraid. "Sir, are they—" "Move," Silas repeated. "Down the tunnel. Don't wait for me." A long beam above his head groaned, bending under the heat. The house wouldn't last. Mara's whisper floated through. "You come after us." Silas didn't answer. Not truthfully. Not yet. He shut the trap door again, leaving only a sliver of air. Then he turned toward the front room, toward the broken windows, the tightening ring of riders, the fire dragging its hungry tail closer to the porch. He chambered another round. Smoke curled around him, hot and bitter. And he walked back into it, steady as a man walking into church on Christmas Eve. "If this is the night, Lord." I'm still standing. The house shifted. A deep, tired groan rolled through the beams as fire chewed along the outer wall. Smoke poured under the window frames in slow, gray fingers. Silas felt the heat tighten the air, drying his mouth. He moved back toward the bedroom, toward the trap door, when a sound stopped him cold. A board creaked. Not above, not outside, inside. Silas pivoted sharply, Colt lifted. A shape peeled itself out of the hallway shadows, thin, deliberate, almost calm. The fifth rider, Jory Pike. Younger than the others, eyes sharp, jaw tight from holding fear somewhere he didn't want to feel it. And in his left hand, clutched tight against Noah's throat, was a revolver. Mara froze halfway out of the trap door, one hand on the frame, one reaching toward her brother. "No," Jory said. "Back. Slow." Noah couldn't speak. The boy's breath came fast and shallow, eyes wide, locked on Silas as if waiting for one command that could save or end everything. Silas lowered the Colt an inch. Not enough to surrender, enough to keep the kid breathing. "Let him go," Silas said. "Not how this works," Jory muttered. Sweat ran along the side of his neck, not from heat, from something heavier. "Old man, you hand me what I came for, and maybe we all walk." Mara's voice scraped out. "He's a child." "Yeah," Jory said, "and I ain't keen on killing one. But orders are orders." Outside, another shot cracked, low and distant. The other riders shifting, tightening the noose. Ash drifted past the broken window like black snow. Silas kept his eyes on Jory. You don't want this. I want my pay, Jory snapped. I want out of this county before Rusk decides I ain't worth keeping. His grip tightened on Noah's collar. Bring me the paper, the metal piece, both. Mara shook her head fiercely. No. Noah made a strangled sound. His feet barely touched the floor. Silas took half a step forward. Don't, Jory said. I'll do it. Silas stopped. The smoke behind him rose higher, blurring the edges of the room. His cheek stung where glass had cut it. Warm blood traced a slow path down his jaw. You kill that boy, Silas said quietly, and you won't leave this house. Jory's eyes flicked just once toward the windows, toward the fire. Not scared of Silas, scared of the world closing in. I ain't here to die, Jory muttered. Then don't make a choice you can't outrun. The gun at Noah's throat trembled. Not much, but enough for Mara to see it. She put her hands up, palms open. I'll give it, she said. Just not with the gun on him. Noah shook his head wildly, voice cracking. Don't, Mara, don't, she swallowed. He'll kill you if I don't. Silas lifted one hand, slow, steady. Mara. She met his eyes. He didn't speak. He didn't have to. Don't give it. But don't fight him either. Smoke thickened, curling up around their legs. The roof popped, sending a shower of sparks down the far wall. Jory jerked Noah backward toward the bedroom doorway. Paper, metal piece, now. Mara slid a hand toward her coat. Hesitating just long enough to feel Noah's fear hit her like a blow, Silas saw it. He saw something else, too. Jory's eyes weren't cruel. They were cornered. A man following orders he hated. Another beam cracked overhead, dust raining down. Outside, a horse screamed. Inside, nobody moved. Silas breathed once. Deep, slow. Son, he said to Jory, voice low as prayer. You walk out with blood on your hands tonight, you'll never wash it off. Jory's jaw clenched. The gun trembled again. For one heartbeat, nobody breathed. Not Mara, not Noah, not Silas. Just the fire. Alive. Waiting. The gun at Noah's throat didn't move, but Jory's eyes did. Just enough to betray the crack widening in his resolve. Smoke drifted between them in slow ribbons, stinging, choking, turning the room into a dim, burning chapel. Silas stayed where he was, hands low, gun angled toward the floor. Not surrender. Invitation. Listen to me, Silas said. I've been where you're standing. I took orders. I pulled a trigger I shouldn't have. His voice didn't rise. It sank. Jory blinked hard, jaw tightening. Don't try that old war talk on me. It ain't talk, Silas said. It sticks. Years later, you still smell the smoke on your hands. A board above them snapped. Ash fell over Jory's shoulders like gray snow. He flinched, but didn't loosen his grip on Noah. Noah's eyes burned with tears, but he kept them open. Brave out of necessity, not choice. I ain't letting him go, Jory said. Rusk wants that proof. I bring it, maybe I get out. Maybe I see another winter. Mara stepped forward, palms still up. Then take it. Just take it. She reached into her coat, slow, trembling, and pulled out the folded scrap of paper first, edges stained with someone else's blood. No, Noah choked. Mara, stop. Silas shook his head once, a tiny motion, enough for Mara to see, enough to confuse her heart, but not her faith. Jory swallowed, loud in the smoke. Set it down. Mara crouched and placed the paper on the floor between them. The room held its breath. Jory nodded toward her other hand. The metal piece, too. Mara reached again, pulled out the small flat shard. The peace everyone was willing to burn for. She hesitated. Jory pushed the gun harder into Noah's neck. Now. Noah made a sound that wasn't a word, more a plea caught between breath and terror. Mara couldn't look at him. She set the metal beside the paper. Jory exhaled. Relief, maybe. Maybe fear. He didn't bend to pick it up. Not yet. Silas stepped slightly to the right, body angled, hands still visible. "You pick that up," Silas said quietly. "You'll think it's a ticket out, but it ain't. Rusk don't let loose ends walk. He'll kill you on the ride back. You know that." Jory's jaw trembled. "Shut up." "You know," Silas repeated. A gust of heat blew through the broken windows, pushing smoke across the floor. The fire was close now. Too close. The walls shivered. Mara crouched lower, arms around her head, but her eyes stayed fixed on Jory. Noah squeezed his own hands into fists, knuckles white, breath shaking. "Son," Silas said softly, "you got someone waiting on you?" Jory's eyes snapped to him. Angry, startled, wounded. A man who didn't expect anyone to ask that. A man who didn't want anyone to ask that. "What's that matter?" he whispered. "It matters," Silas said. "Because if you pull that trigger, their shadow's gonna sit beside you, every night, till you die." Jory blinked. Rapid, panicked. Mara didn't speak. She knew this wasn't her moment. Noah whispered, ragged, "Please, don't." The boy's voice hit where Silas couldn't. Something in Jory's grip faltered. He looked from Noah to Mara, to the burning window, to Silas, then to the floor, to the proof that could free him or doom him. He bent slightly, not to pick it up, to see it clearer. His hand shook. "Lord help me," he breathed. He lowered the gun. "Not all the way, but enough." Mara gasped. Noah sagged against Jory's arm as the pressure lifted from his throat. Jory kicked the metal and paper hard, sending them sliding across the floor straight to Silas's boots. "I don't want it," Jory said, voice cracked. "I ain't dying for that man." He stepped back, gun still in hand, but pointed at the floor. Smoke wrapped around him like a shroud. "I never saw you," he said. "You never saw me." Then he turned and vanished down the hallway, slipping through the back door into the dark and the fire's roar. Silas holstered his gun. Mara collapsed beside Noah, pulling him into her arms so tightly his breath stuttered. He didn't cry. He just held on. Silas picked up the paper and the shard. Outside, hooves pounded. The circle was closing again. Inside, for the first time in the night, Silas felt something strange in his chest. Not fear, not relief, responsibility. "Lord, if this is the family you sent me, I hear you." The metal shard felt heavier in Silas's hand than its size allowed. Heat from the burning walls warmed it, but the truth inside it was colder than snow. Mara steadied herself beside Noah, coughing hard as the smoke thickened. You shouldn't have taken it," she whispered. Silas didn't answer. He unfolded the blood-stained paper, eyes narrowing as the ink bled into the firelight. A land deed. Not just land. Whole acres tied to the rail contract, and a signature that did not match the witness line. Forgery. The kind men kill for. Mara saw his jaw tighten. "That's why they burned our house," she said. "My father, he wouldn't sign. Rusk made a new deal without him." Noah swallowed painfully. They killed him when he said no. The floor trembled under their feet, fire chewing at the joists. Silas folded the deed once, twice, and then tucked it inside his vest. "We move," he said. "Hatch now." A burning beam dropped in the front room with a hungry crack. Smoke billowed fast, choking, swirling in thick black ropes that crawled along the ceiling. Mara yanked the trap door open, shoving Noah toward it. The boy hesitated, glancing back at Silas. "Sir." "Down," Silas ordered. Noah dropped into the darkness. Mara followed, boots scraping the ladder rungs. "It's short. You'll have to crawl." "Go," Silas said. She vanished into the earth. Silas turned toward the front once more, counting breaths, sounds, shadows, hooves outside, the riders repositioning, their voices muffled by fire and wind. He knelt and swung his legs into the trap door. That's when the chimney cracked. A thunderous boom shook the entire house. Sparks rained like a broken star. The roof sagged inward, groaning under its own weight. Silas dropped the last 4 feet into the tunnel just as a wall collapsed behind him. The hatch slammed shut by its own weight. Dark. Cold. He could still hear the house dying above them, boards snapping, fire roaring, memories turning to ash. He crawled forward, shoulders scraping dirt. The tunnel was narrow, built for a man in retreat, not a man in control. His breath fogged the cramped space. Ahead, a faint glow. Mara's lantern. Noah's small silhouette waited beside it. "You okay?" Mara whispered. Silas nodded. "Move." They crawled fast, palms sinking into damp soil, boots dragging behind. The deeper they went, the colder the air became. Snowmelt trickled from cracks overhead. Earth shifted in soft groans as the burning house above weakened. Noah stopped suddenly. "I hear something." Silas froze. Nothing at first. Then, a long, crushing sigh as the roof above them gave way. The house collapsed. A dull, heavy thunder rolled through the ground, dust sifting from the tunnel ceiling. Mara covered Noah with her arms. Silas braced his hands against the sides, praying the tunnel would hold. "Lord, keep the earth steady," he murmured. When the rumbling faded, only crackling fire remained. Mara lifted her head. We have no home now." Silas didn't look back. Loss could drag a man under faster than fire. "Forward," he said. The tunnel widened near the creek bed. A small hatch of boards marked the exit. Mara pushed it open, cold night air flooding in, thick with smoke but free of flame. Noah climbed out first, collapsing into snow. Mara followed, gasping, shaking soot from her hair. Silas emerged last. Behind them, his ranch, once standing proud against the winter, was a crown of fire sinking into itself. Not an ember left to save. Noah looked up at him, voice thin. "I'm sorry, sir. It burned because of us." Silas shook his head. "It burned because of them." A horse neighed somewhere beyond the tree line. Hooves scraped frost. The riders were circling for the creek crossing. Mara grabbed Noah's hand tighter. "They're not done." "No," Silas said, gripping the rifle. "But neither are we." He took one step toward the shadowed pines, the only cover left. The wind cut across the burnt valley, carrying smoke, ash, and a promise. This wasn't the end. It was the beginning. Dawn slid across the valley like a blade, thin, pale, cutting through the last tail of smoke. Silas stood in the wet snow beside the creek, watching steam rise from the ruins of his ranch. Mara and Noah huddled under his coat, both shivering hard, soot smeared across their faces like war paint. A horse approached from the ridge. One rider, slow, measured. Sheriff Wade Crowley. He didn't come at a gallop like a man desperate to save a life. He came like a man checking a ledger. "Morning," the sheriff called, stopping 10 yards away. Silas didn't answer. Crowley's eyes swept the smoldering wreckage, then dropped to the footprints around Silas, the small ones and the larger ones. His jaw flexed, not in concern, calculation. "Rough night," he said. Mara stiffened behind Silas. Noah stepped half behind her, half behind him, instinct caught between two guardians. Silas nodded once. Nothing more. Crowley dismounted, boots crunching in the snow. He walked toward them with his hands nowhere near his gun, too confident for that. When he got close enough, he asked the question no decent man would ask first. "Where's the item they took?" Noah sucked in a sharp breath. Mara's fingers dug into Silas's coat. Silas didn't blink. "Ain't got anything of yours." Crowley studied him a long moment. "Not mine." A pause. "But I'm responsible for what goes missing in this county." Behind him, Deputy Niles shifted in his saddle. Younger, leaner, eyes uneasy. He kept glancing at the ruins, then at Mara and Noah, as if trying to measure what part of this was justice and what part was something darker. Crowley walked a slow circle around Silas, boots sinking deep in the thawing snow. "Reports say 2 kids stole something. Say they fled this way. Say a man matching your description helped him." Silas's jaw worked once. "Reports flatter me." Crowley stopped in front of him. "Rusk wants this resolved quiet, smooth, no fuss." "Rusk speaks to you often?" Silas asked. "Enough," the sheriff said. "He's the one who keeps the town fed, built half the businesses, paid for the church roof last spring." Mara murmured. "He bought the pastor, too." Crowley's eyes snapped to her. "Miss, you should choose your words careful." Noah stepped forward, small, shaking, but unbroken. "We didn't steal anything." Crowley bent slightly to Noah's level, too close, too gentle to be honest. "Son, folks who take what ain't theirs sometimes tell themselves stories. Helps them sleep." Noah's chin quivered. "We didn't." Silas shifted, placing himself between them. Crowley straightened. "Let's try this again. The item. Where?" Silas stared straight into him. "Gone in the fire." Crowley smiled without warmth. "Fire don't burn steel, Silas." Niles looked down suddenly, as if ashamed of the sheriff's tone. A wind cut across the valley, cold enough to lift ash from the ruins. It swirled around them, flakes of what was once Silas's home. Crowley dusted his coat. "Rusk'll want to search. You ain't gonna like that." "You ain't searching the boy or the girl," Silas said. Crowley lifted a brow. "That's so?" "Yeah." "Funny," the sheriff said. "Hearing a man talk like that while standing on ashes he can't explain." The remark hit, but Silas didn't show it. Mara stepped forward, voice raw. "Sheriff, if you care about this town—" Crowley cut her off with a raised hand. "I care about order, not tales." A silence fell. Long, hard, heavy. Niles dismounted then, quietly. He walked toward the creek, pretending to check the thaw line. When Crowley turned slightly, Niles let something slip from his glove. A small scrap of paper. Fell slow. Landed near Silas's boot. Crowley didn't see. Niles didn't look at Silas, but his voice carried just enough. "Tracks heading toward town. Looks like they ain't far." Crowley nodded. "Then we keep looking. Mount up." He shot Silas a final glance. Measured. Warning. "Don't leave the county." Silas said nothing. The sheriff rode off, snow breaking under his horse's hooves. Niles followed, turning his head just once, eyes locking with Silas in a silent plea. "This is the only help I can give." When they disappeared over the ridge, Silas crouched and picked up the scrap, a single line scratched in hurried pencil. "Freight depot, 3 o'clock. Mara leaned close. "Deputy dropped that?" "Yeah." What does it mean? Silas tucked the note away. Means we ain't trusting the badge today. Behind him, Noah looked at the ruins of the ranch, steam rising from the blackened beams, snow melting around the edges like tears. What now? The boy whispered. Silas looked toward town, toward the church steeple barely visible through the morning haze, toward the power that tried to burn them out. Now, he said. We finish what they started. Snow hadn't melted yet, but the sun had climbed enough to turn the drifts into a thin glaze of silver. Silas led Noah and Mara along the fence line, keeping low, keeping quiet. The freight depot lay somewhere past the grain silos, too far to walk without being seen, too close to turn back. Noah limped beside him, jaw tight. The kid wasn't complaining. He hadn't complained all night. Silas watched the ridgeline as they moved, empty at first. Then, shadows. 5 riders, spread wide, moving slow. Mara's breath hitched, the sound sharp in the cold. It's them. Silas didn't answer. He stepped forward, placing his body between the riders and the 2 kids. Snow cracked under his boots, steady, unhurried. His hand hovered near the holster, but he didn't draw yet. Wind pushed the last threads of smoke from the ruined ranch toward them. The smell clung to his coat like a memory he didn't ask for. Noah whispered, "Sir, we can run." "Not today," Silas said. The riders closed the distance until their horses blew mist into the air. Their leader, gray coat, scar under the jaw, pulled to a stop 10 yards out. "Well now," the man said, voice syrup slow. "Look who crawled out of the ashes." Silas kept his stance, feet planted in the snow. The man smiled, not kindly. "You've got something belongs to us." Silas didn't blink. "No, that ain't an answer. It's the only one you're getting." Snow drifted sideways, carried by the same wind that had carried fire toward the ranch. Mara stepped back, shielding Noah with her body. The kid pressed close to her, fingers curled into her sleeve. "Lord, don't let me fail them," Silas thought. Quick, quiet, like a prayer someone forgot to teach him. The leader leaned in his saddle. "Hand over the paper. Kids go free." Mara shook her head before Silas spoke. "We don't believe you." The man's eyes hardened. "Girl, I ain't asking you. I'm asking him." Silas tilted his chin. "Kids ain't part of this." "They're the whole of it," the man said. "They saw Rusk's business. That makes them loose ends." Mara's hand found Noah's shoulder, gripping too tight. Silas drifted a half step forward. "You want a bargaining chip? Take mine." He tossed a small leather pouch into the snow, heavy with coin. "Buy yourself 10 seconds. The leader laughed. "You think money buys time?" "Sometimes," Silas said. "Sometimes it buys mistakes." The rider's eyes flicked to the pouch. 1 heartbeat, 2. Silas moved. He drew steel in a single clean motion, not aiming to kill, aiming to break the formation. His first shot hit the ground inches from a horse's hoof, sending the animal rearing. The second cracked a rifle stock clean in half. Snow exploded around them as horses scattered. "Run!" Silas barked. Mara grabbed Noah and sprinted along the ditch line. Silas stepped sideways, firing low, every muzzle flash, lighting his face for a split second. Just long enough to show the old ghosts still living behind his eyes. A rider charged him from the left. Silas swung his arm, not for the man, but for the yen nagua, a single bullet tearing leather loose. The rider toppled sideways into the snow, cursing, alive. He didn't want bodies. He wanted space. Noah stumbled. Mara yanked him up before he hit the ice. "Keep moving," she whispered, voice hoarse. 2 more riders regrouped, Guns raised, Silas ducked behind a fallen juniper, snow showering down. He counted the chambers in his head. 4 left, maybe 3. The leader shouted, "He ain't taken them far! Spread out!" Hooves thundered in 2 directions, splitting the circle, tightening the noose again. Silas glanced toward the silo road. Too open, too bright, too late. A single shot cracked the air, sharp, clean, different from the others. A warning shot from the ridge. Deputy Niles rode into view, rifle raised, face pale as winterbone. "That's enough!" he shouted. "Sheriff's orders, no blood in daylight!" The leader cursed under his breath. "Crowley's gone soft, or stupid." Niles fired again, closer this time. Horses spooked, men swerved back. Silas didn't waste it. "Mara, now!" The 3 of them sprinted toward the depot's back road, Noah gasping, Mara dragging him, Silas behind them covering every step. Snow bit their faces, wind stealing their breath. Behind them, the leader yelled, "This ain't over!" Silas didn't look back. He already knew. It never is. Snow lay quiet over the freight yards, softening the sound of everything except the distant bell from the town church. Silas led Noah and Mara behind a line of abandoned wagons, where the shadows stayed long even in daylight. Steam rose from the 3 of them, sweat freezing on their coats. Mara knelt beside Noah, brushing ice from his hair. He tried to straighten up, tried to act older than 13, but his breath shuddered too much. Silas unwrapped his duster and draped it over both of them without a word. A train whistle moaned from far down the tracks, low, mournful, like something wounded. Mara's voice broke the silence first. "We can't stay here long." "No," Silas said. "But we can't walk back," Noah whispered. "We ain't walking back." Silas scanned the yard again. Not ever. A gust of wind carried the smell of coal smoke. The depot platform was empty. No lawmen, no riders, not yet. But the snow told a different truth. Hoof prints, boot prints, all headed in their direction. Mara noticed too. "They're still hunting." "Always will," Silas said. He reached inside his coat and pulled out the metal fragment, the half of the truth that had burned half the county. Mara hesitated, then reached into her blouse and handed him the folded paper, edges charred from the night before. "You keep it," she said. Silas shook his head. "Too easy a target." Noah watched them both, eyes wide, cheeks raw from cold. You're not leaving us, right?" Silas crouched, meeting the boy at eye level. Snowflakes clung to Noah's lashes. "Listen close," Silas said. "A house is wood, a roof is nails. Both burn easy." Noah swallowed. "What doesn't?" Silas touched the kid's shoulder, gentle, steady. "What you choose to stand for." For a moment, Noah didn't breathe. "Lord, don't let me drop this," Silas thought. Just a flicker, gone as fast as it came. Mara shifted closer, her voice low. "What do we stand for now?" Silas looked toward the distant ridgeline, where black smoke still rose from what used to be his ranch. "Getting you both out of this county alive. That's the start." A wagon creaked somewhere on the street beyond the yard. Slow, careful. Silas motioned the kids down behind the crates. Footsteps followed, crunching lightly in the cold. Sheriff Crowley's silhouette cut through the drifting snow. He paused at the rail line, hat tipped low, breath fogging out in front of him. He stared at the ground as though reading the story written in prints and ash. His hand brushed the butt of his revolver but didn't draw. After a long moment, he muttered, "Damn fool," as if talking to himself, and walked on. The sheriff hadn't seen them, or he had, and chose not to. Mara leaned in close. What does that mean? Is he helping or hunting? Silas watched Crowley disappear into the haze. Both, he said. That's the trouble. The train whistle moaned. Again, closer this time. The depot clock chimed once, metal ringing through the cold air. Mara, Silas said, take Noah. Head for the grain elevator. Stay low. What about you? Silas scanned the ridgeline one more time. I'll draw any eyes off you. Mara grabbed his sleeve. You'll get killed. Maybe. A beat of stillness. But you won't. Her breath shook out, part fear, part stubborn faith. Silas slipped the metal fragment into his pocket, but pressed the folded paper back into her hand. Split the risk, he whispered. She nodded. Noah clutched Silas's coat with both hands before letting go. Sir, don't leave us behind. Silas touched the boy's fist gently, prying it open. Kid, I ain't leaving. I'm clearing the road. Snow swirled around them, soft, cold, almost holy. From somewhere in the town, a choir practiced faintly, voices rising with the early bells of Christmas week, a sound too gentle for a place this cruel. Silas stepped into the open yard, boots deep in the snow, shoulders squared against the wind. Mara and Noah slipped toward the elevator shadows, moving fast, small, silent. 3 horsemen appeared at the far end of the street. Rusk's men. They hadn't seen the kids. Yet. Silas reached for his gun. Not to kill, just to buy seconds. The wind carried his breath away, thin and white. Behind him, the grain elevator door shut softly. He smiled, barely. All right, he murmured. Let's finish the morning. Snow drifted. Boots crunched. Steel moved. It wasn't peace, but it was family, and family was worth the road ahead. When the snow finally settled and the valley fell quiet again, Silas stood alone in that pale morning light, watching 2 young souls slip toward a safer road. His ranch was gone. His night was burned. Yet somehow, his heart felt heavier in a way that wasn't sorrow. It was purpose. It was the weight a man carries when the good Lord reminds him that even in a world full of ashes, there are still lives worth standing for. Maybe that's the lesson hidden in these Western days of old. That family isn't always blood, and courage ain't the loud kind, but the steady kind. The kind that stays when the world turns cold. If tonight's story stirred something in you, a memory, a prayer, a lesson from years long past, I'd be honored if you shared it down in the comments. Folks younger than us need to hear wisdom like that. And if you'd like more stories of grit, grace, and the kind of hope that survives winter nights, feel free to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and ring the little bell. It helps these tales find their way to others who might need them. Until the next ride, may God keep you warm, and may peace follow your trail.